All right, recording's up. So, questions you have about anything we've talked about thus far, and I mean anything. I'm talking, I don't understand this strategy. I don't understand the math of the test. I don't understand anything and everything. You cannot be afraid to ask because, like I told you yesterday, you will not only be experts on the content, but you will be experts on the test. So if you're ever asked, well, how's your test organized, or what does the AP test look like? You say, well, it's got 60 multiple choice questions. I get 45 minutes to do it. That means I get 45 seconds per question. There are 4 FRQs. I have roughly 25 minutes per FRQ, a total of 100 minutes. Each FRQ is worth 15 points with a grand total of 60 points. And then furthermore, each FRQ question has between 5 and 8 points that I need to hit that are then divided into those 15 points for the grand total, of that particular question, and then we times that by 4. Now, I know I went through that very, very quickly, but we need to be experts on that because there's no more frustrating thing when I ask students and they don't know how their AP test is set up, because we are eliminating the questions and the confusion and the uncertainty that comes along with taking the test. We want to get rid of that crud. You will be surprised by material on the test. You will be surprised. But we need to be able to handle those surprises and eliminate them as many as we can. So, come on in, Peter. So, what questions do you have about anything we've talked about these past 2 weeks? You cannot hold back. Cannot hold back. Or do I? Okay.
I still don't understand bureaucracy.
Okay. Well, we haven't talked about that much about it yet, but let's talk about bureaucracies real quick. And again, this is going down the rabbit hole a little bit, which is fine. Bureaucracies could be considered the 4th branch of American government, but they're technically not because they're under what branch? Anybody know? Sir? Nope. Good guess. Executive. Because what were you taught in elementary school? What's the job of the president? To make laws? To carry out laws. Now, is the President Obama, whether you love him or you hate him, is he out there enforcing drug trafficking laws in our domestic waters? Heck no. We have bureaucracies to do this, and that's what a bureaucracy is. It is the meat of the federal government. Over 3.4 million employees in bureaucracies that work for the federal government. What's the biggest bureaucracy? Sir?
The IRS.
Nope.
FBI?
Nope. You guys don't know it's a bureaucracy. The U.S. military. That's a bureaucracy, folks. That's a bureaucracy. The U.S. military. We don't think of it, but the Department of Defense is a bureaucracy. The Department of Defense controls our military. Okay? So that's what a bureaucracy is. Now, we're going to go into it a lot, but that's what a bureaucracy is. It is who actually enforces and does something in the government. They're the ones that takes the laws, they interpret the laws, which we'll talk about, it's known as bureaucratic interpretation, and then they execute the laws. And again, there's a lot more to it, but it's really not that complicated when we break it down into pieces and make those connections. All right? But that's what a bureaucracy is. And you deal with them every day. When you, 17? Okay, 17. Well, we can't say DMV, but when you get really frustrated when you're trying to get your license or when you got your license, bureaucracies. Now, that was a state bureaucracy because does the federal government issue law or issue driver's license? No, they do not. Mine says state of Florida. But what do they issue that's very, very important, international students? Visas and passports. And what bureaucracy issues those? Not the CIA. USC. Oh, CS. CS. It's the State Department. That's what does it. You know the Secretary of State, the State Department? Okay, I'm going to try to teach you something that gets a little confusing. When you hear state, when we talk about this kind of stuff, it can have two different meanings. A state as in state of Florida, or as state as in a country. The United States is considered a state. England is considered a state. Brazil is considered a state. Portugal is considered a state. So when we have the Department of State, that's actually an international bureaucracy that works with other countries because they work with other states, and not states as in states of Florida and Michigan and Alabama. So I know that is something that some kids can never wrap their head around. Like, when you see a state, you got to make sure, are they referring to state as in a country or state as in a Michigan? And usually it's pretty clear what it is. But when you hear Secretary of State or Department of State, the State Department, they're referring to a state as in a country, and how states, U.S., Great Britain, all they work together. Have I lost you? It sometimes takes a little while to wrap your brain around it. Other questions? We're not going to go into bureaucracies anymore because that's probably around July or January.
What's the difference between the state and the nation on a nation state? Because I know there's the term of a nation state, but I forget the difference.
When you say nation state, do you mean like a city state? Like that they really don't exist anymore. But a city state doesn't exist. A city state is like, I'll use the one everybody knows, like Sparta, obviously, because that country, everything was based around that city. That's why it's called a city state. Okay, you're never going to be asked about Sparta, by the way. Ma'am.
Could you go over the math of the test, slowly?
Yes, okay. You have 45 minutes to complete 60 multiple choice questions. Roughly, you have 45 seconds. When we get into practicing multiple choice, which we will, and we'll do a lot of that fourth quarter, as I told you yesterday, that's all we do fourth quarter. I give you and I time you, and we do pockets of 10. And I time you, give you 7.5 minutes per pocket of 10, because that's 45 seconds. Your goal for multiple choice in the beginning will be 45 out of 60. Now, that will most likely change because you guys will do better. Okay, but that's our initial goal, 45 out of 60, because each one of those multiple choice questions is worth 1 point. Then we move to the FRQs. You have 4 FRQs. Okay? You have 4 FRQs. Each FRQ is worth 15 points, and you have roughly 25 minutes to complete each FRQ, 100 total minutes. Okay? So at an individual level, when we look at an FRQ, we need, like I talked about yesterday, our strategy, we need to try to figure out how many points that FRQ has within it. We know it's worth 15, but then there's individual points that we have to hit. It's kind of funny. If you ever saw like the teacher's grading, and there's actually a picture that someone took that they weren't supposed to and put it on Twitter, but you'll see all the teachers doing this while they read. We're not allowed to mark on tests. What we're doing is counting the points you're getting. And we just go like this, So what you're trying to do is hit as many points as you can within that question. And then those total points, let's make it easy. Let's say there's 5 points that you needed to hit in that FRQ. Each one of those points is then worth how much? 3 points, because you take 15 and you take 5 into 15, you get 3 points each. So let's say you did a great job and you got a 4 out of 5. That means you just earned 12 points. That's like getting 12 multiple choice points right. So the formula that they use is, they got these, how many points over 15, how many points are under 15, under boom, 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 boom. They do all the math. They go to 3 remainders. They add them all up. There's no rounding. They take your score out of 60 then, because you had 4, add it with your multiple choice, and there you get. And again, I'm thinking a passing 3 is going to be around a 64, 66, 65. So our goal on FRQs is a 30 out of 60. And that probably won't change. Unless your goal is a 5. Okay? But our goal is a 30 out of 60. And if we hit our goal of 45, we're sitting 45 and a 30, which is 75. We are really close to a 4. Really close. Like a 4 could be like a 78. So you're passing easy, but you could be dancing with a 4. Because I've seen 4s go as high as an 82, and I've seen 4s go as low as a 78, 77. Okay? Again, they never tell us this. I use this from the release exams, and they tell you exactly where the breaking point is. But like I said, they'll never tell you exactly what you got out of 120. Because if, let's say, one of you, let's say, Cassandra, got a 91, but a 5 was a 92, we're challenging that exam. So that's why they never tell you your exact score, your exact point score. They just give you that number. Does that make sense? Because they don't want people challenging it. Because anybody that's 1 point away or 2 points away, we're challenging it. And you can challenge it. Does that make sense? Again, you need to be experts on this. So not only does this give you, that relaxes you a little bit when you go into the test itself, but it realizes, hey, I know I'm going to get some wrong, but I can still do very, very well on this exam. And again, all of you are all-star students. Can you get a 50% fail on an essay test? I mean, come on now. If there was any other test, you would be like, oh my God, a 50%, I'm going to have to go, cry my night away. But again, that's our goal. Man. Last year's multiple choice, we bumped our average because we hit at our midterm, and I'll show you the spreadsheet I use, because at midterm, when they take a full release exam, just like you will, they averaged a 39 out of 60. That's at midterm. I'm not curving it. I curve your grade that I put into the grade, but I show you exactly what you scored on the exam grade-wise, and they had an average of a 39 out of 60. And that's with a whole semester left to go and not covering all the content. And then, and talk to them, please. We went through every single question. There was one question they said they had no idea on. But when we went through and talked about it, it was more like, oh my God, stupid mistakes. So that's why we got to really slow ourselves down and make sure we eliminate those stupid mistakes, because believe it or not, some of you in here could probably already pass the exam. In all honesty, you probably could, because you can use your common sense. And if you can cut through the fluff of the question and figure out what they're really asking for, you can be incredibly successful. And we'll work on that. It's practicing. You're not going to be experts yet. If you were, you wouldn't need me. You wouldn't need donuts. That's why we practice. But really, I'm trying to just give you that hope that if you bust your butt and you really work and practice, and it doesn't mean hours and hours each night. That means that consistent effort every night, or 5 days a week. A 4 and a 5 is expected. Is expected. All right. I don't mind talking about that, but any content questions, anything you're confused about, we can talk about the homework a little bit. I mean, we've got mostly everybody here, and I am recording this, so you can go back and listen to it. So, any content questions? Were we confused about equality of outcome versus equality of opportunity? Because I know I'm throwing it at you, but when I explain it, you're like, oh, okay, that makes complete sense. Man.
I was confused about the trend of the scope of the government.
Mm-hmm. You know what? You would know that even before reading Section 5. It's so, and I want to make this very clear. When I say it's so obvious, it's not a shot if you don't know it. Don't take offense to me saying, oh, Mr. Carpenter just called me stupid because I didn't know this. No. What I'm trying to do is by saying it's obvious is you're trying to think too deep. What has happened to our government from the beginning to what it is now? What could we say it's happened to it? Okay, you just got the answer right. It's grown. It's grown immensely. It's huge now from what it was. And if you remember in American history, if you've taken it yet, what was their biggest concerns at the outset of the American, I almost said American dream, but the American government? What was their huge concern when they created that Constitution? Anybody remember? What was that? An over-involved government at what level? What level of government? Federal, yeah. I mean, heck. Over 600,000 people died defending states' rights versus federal rights, didn't they? A little civil war in there. Our government has, and that's what a trend is, our government has grown immensely. And we'll talk about that transition, but that's literally how simple it is. It has grown so much. The federal government has expanded its influence, its services, its power since the outbreak to what it is now. And if you would write that in FRQ, you would get it right. Ma'am. Can you speak up because we're recording? Okay, I'm going to stop you right now. Did I ask you about economics? Okay, what am I going to say? Keep it simple. I can't say the other word because we got a little baby in here. Keep it simple. Are the answers to FRQ simple? Very simple. Keep it simple. Don't go off on tangents. If you get your tangents, smack yourself and pull yourself back together. And don't, capitalism, goodness gracious, we don't need to talk about capitalism. On all honesty, you could answer that question in 3 lines. 3 lines. Because hopefully some of you are practicing making it circular. Restate the question. The government has expanded over the past 200 years. One trend that within the U.S. government is that it's grown tremendously over the past 200 years. The U.S. government growing tremendously over the past 200 years is a trend. Oh my God, it will make an English teacher cringe. It will make him cringe. I told Mr. Garland this, he almost hit me. I don't blame him. But man, does it work? 3 sentences you could have got that done in. And 2 of them are fluff sentences. Restate, state the answer, tie it back in. And I know some of you wrote a lot. I know some of you wrote a ton. Keep it simple. That does not mean make it complete. That does not mean add details and explain everything as we talked about. But it does mean keep it simple. Remember, we have to grade over 1.2 million FRQs. We cannot have complicated answers. We have a week to do it. Ma'am.
So we wouldn't have to provide an example?
Do I ask for an example? Why do you think I do this? And everybody, you can get mad at me, but I do it all for a reason. I know I was going to get examples. I knew I was. I knew it. I chuckled to myself when I wrote the question. I'm like, I'm going to get 4 pages for these questions. Keep it simple. Answer it completely, but keep it simple. They say give you an example, give an example. But examples are tricky in the FRQs. Because there's so many possible examples. And I'll tell you how they treat examples. If your example has anything to do with being right, even if it's wrong, they'll give it to you. I had to give points last year. If a kid said, what amendment increased women's suffrage? Or what amendment has increased suffrage for any minority group? And the kid said the 32nd Amendment expanded suffrage. I had to give them a point. I had to give them a point. Now, you're not allowed to talk about the 32nd Amendment because there is no 32nd Amendment. Hopefully you all realize that. But I had to give them a point. It's ridiculous, folks. Now, again, I'm not telling you that. That's not going to be allowed in my class. You better know your amendments as you will. But you know what I'm talking about there? Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Okay? Great questions. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Any more content? Yes. We're getting a lot of questions from this side. We got to get some questions from the middle.
For equality of opportunity, in a nutshell, it's basically equal access to the same choices, right?
I would say, yeah. I would say it's just the best way I try to describe it a little bit, and we'll get into greater detail today, is the idea of an equitable system. I'm going to teach you that word today. Equitable. When everyone is treated equally. But then we have to also get into the situation, if everyone let me check that. I got to explain that. Okay, if everyone's treated equally, let's say in the college admission process, because I know a lot of you are going through it, is that truly equal? If we're colorblind if we're sex blind, we're everything. We just look at the grades, the transcript, all that kind of stuff. Is that truly an equitable system? No, because some people are at disadvantages. Some people are at disadvantages. So to have an equitable system, you need to level the playing field at the beginning of the process. That's what's known as an equitable system. Another good way of looking at this is special education for public school kids. We have an equitable system. It's known as an FTE system. I learned this in my master's degree for schools. If you are labeled a special needs student, special ed in any way, the school gets more money to help you get equal. That is an equitable system. Not everybody's treated equally because you're seen, but we're equaling the playing field in the beginning of the process. Okay? AP students get. Who's been in public school? Who live in public school? How many times do you ever have time in the beginning of the school year where they shut everything down and they go through and count? You remember those? Anybody remember that? Anybody? That's what they're doing those days. They are counting because they get paid based on the students that they have in the classroom. And what's really important, actually what Miss Clapper used to do for a living, is she would make sure that the paperwork was perfect for those special ed and gifted students. Because in order to get the money, everything would have to be perfectly in set. So that is an equitable system. Equality is where everyone is treated the same. An equitable system is where everyone's put in the same equal playing field at the beginning. That's equality of opportunity. Everyone has the same opportunity. But then we get into debate is, opportunity and treated the same are different. Okay? Because in order to give everyone an equal opportunity, some groups or some individuals need a little help, right? Some of you say no. I love talking about this with private school students. Some of those individuals need a little bump, and that's what would be equality of opportunity. Equality of outcome is what in a nutshell? Go ahead.
No matter how everyone started, everyone gets a similar end result.
Exactly. Socialism, where everything is equal at the end, which I love bringing up at a private school. Where everything's divvied out. Everybody gets the same, no matter what you do. What is a great example of the system that we have in right now trying to equal out outcome? Something we all hate. Go ahead. Exactly. Income taxes. Income taxes. Do I pay a higher tax rate than a single mom of 4 making $15,000 a year? She doesn't pay any taxes, and I pay a lot more. That is a equality of or outcome system. I pay a higher percentage of taxes. They're trying to. It's called income redistribution. They take my money and they give it to other people. They're trying to even out the system. I love all the little faces that I'm getting right now. You're just like, I don't like that at all. Other good questions, and we'll go into greater detail today. Yes?
I have a follow-up question.
I love follow-ups.
So it's also based for jobs, for example, it would also be how qualified you are for a job, right?
Welcome to affirmative action.
And so if that is how it is, then who determines if you're qualified?
It's not goes to qualification. It deals with the idea of ensuring that every minority group, and I'm bringing up minority groups because it's the easiest one, has an equal opportunity to get that job. There isn't really a system out there that says if you've got between an African American and a white person, you have to hire, even if the African American is underqualified, you have to hire them. There's really no system involved. Now, there's unwritten laws, but it's really up to, in some cases, the Department of Labor and other bureaucracy that determines qualifications and stuff like that, and the business itself, if it's a private business. We'll get into a lot more detail on something like that. What other questions? Keep them coming. I know you're tired. Keep plodding away. Keeping after it. Keep focused in. See if that sugar running through your veins a little bit. Okay. We usually stop at 35. That means we go for 30 minutes. And then you have 10 minutes to go hang with your friends and get to, well, I guess first period now. What other questions? Keep them coming. Let's go. Okay. What I said yesterday, and I tried to get a question that did that with you yesterday. I think it was question 2, where I had you try to link equality. Was it opportunity or outcome? I had you try to link to scope of government.
You have the equality to each other.
No. There's number 2, which I forget which one I decided to do. It was outcome. Okay, that one's a little bit easier. That is something that you're really going to have to get good at, and that is the most difficult thing in the class, is making those connections. And I'm going to hold off on talking about it, but hopefully you saw what I was trying to do there, is have you make a connection from what the government does or what an idea is to the scope of government. Yes?
Government, while equality of outcome would be more like an example.
I didn't say that they were going to be connected similarly. It could be the differences. And what do you? Okay, let me ask you that. Let me stop. I'm going to ask you a question that's going to help you understand it. Trust me. What do you see there between those two things? Outcome, equality of outcome, and laissez-faire. What do you see there?
I see somebody
One
who
word.
does something and somebody who doesn't.
No. One word. What is politics all about? Nope. Come on now. What did I say politics? The definition of politics was resolution of conflict. What do you see there? You gotta yell it then. What do you see there between a system based on equality of outcome and laissez-faire? Conflict. Because in order to have a system of an equality of outcome, what must you have? A lot of government, a lot of systems. That's not laissez-faire. That's not laissez-faire at all. That's a complete contrast. That's what I'm trying to. That's good. I'm hopefully you said that. You're like, these things don't go together, Mr. Clapper. They're going to be at odds with each other. They're going to be at fight.